Krishna hai, Krishna 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 hai, Krishna 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 Rakshamam, Krishna 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 Pahimam. Rama Radha Rama Radha Rama Radha Rakshaman, Ram Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Bapahima. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaskyapadishtatarine. Hare Krishna. Any song? Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Madhava Punjabi Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Brajajanayana Yamuna Tira Vina Yadi Yamuna Tira Vina Yadi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Brajajanayana Yashodanandana Brajajanayana Yamunati Ganasyadi Yamunatira Ganasyadi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Jagacharya Astatarasata C.C. Midas Divine Grace C.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Go ahead. He wants me to try his new toy. Like this. Okay. There's the microphone. There's the microphone. Okay. Continuing from where we left off yesterday evening. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone to Gaya, received Diksha. He became transformed. And each day that passed became more and more and more and more. Lost in the ecstasy of love for Krishna, he started leaving for Vrindavan in the middle of the night without telling anybody. And some very kind devotees of the Lord remind him from the sky, not yet, you'll go to Vrindavan later. Now go back to Navadvip and deliver the holy name. And he acknowledged and went back and took his students back to Navadvip. Now there's details of what happened after that. We're going to skip ahead because it's about 150 pages of what happened when he reached Navadvip. There's some other things before he got to Navadvip too. That's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kanai Natashala, etc., etc. So back in Navadvip, everyone's like, what happened to him? And his mother, his wife, the elders, everybody. And there's exchanges with his students where he's not teaching like he used to teach. He's just teaching names of Krishna. And they wonder what happened to him. They're less interested in his teaching Krishna Bhakti than they are interested in grammar, and there's some discussions about that. He hasn't departed from ways from that yet, but he's kind of like, is heading in that direction. Chapter 2, so we finished Adi Kanda yesterday evening. This is Madhya Kanda, Chapter 2. The Lord's manifestation at the house of Srivas and the inauguration of the Sankirtan. Text 1. This chapter is only 100 pages long compared to 150 of the first chapter. All glories to Gaurachandra, who is the benefactor of the entire world. Please give your lotus feet in charity to my heart. All glories to Sri Gauranga, along with his devotees. By hearing the topics of Lord Chaitanya, one attains the devotional service of the Lord. That's what we're doing, trying to anyway. When all the devotees observed the Lord's love, they were struck with wonder. In great satisfaction, they went to Advaita and informed him of what they had seen. The most powerful Advaita immediately understood, through the influence of his devotional service, the Lord has incarnated, quote unquote. Yet, the truth of Advaita Charya is difficult to understand because he sometimes reveals himself and sometimes conceals himself. When Advaita Charya heard this news, he became fully absorbed and began to speak as follows. Oh, brothers, please hear me. Last night I saw something in a dream. When I was unable to understand something that I had read in Bhagavad Gita, I was unhappy and took rest without eating. In the dead of night, someone came to me in a dream and said, "Rise, Acharya, go and take your meal. I am explaining the meaning of the text you read. Get up, eat, and worship me." Why are you feeling sad? You have obtained everything. Your resolution has been fulfilled. Your fasting, your worship, your tears while crying out the name of Krishna, and your vow with raised arms, all to induce the Lord's advent, have now become successful. The chanting of Krishna's names will be spread into all countries, all towns, and all houses. Devotional service that is rare even for Lord Brahma will now be available to everyone by your mercy. All the Vaishnavas will experience realizations at the house of Srivas Pandit that are rare for even Lord Brahma. Therefore, eat your meal. I am departing now, but I will come again while you are eating. When I opened my eyes, I saw this, Vishwambar, but he soon disappeared from my sight. I cannot understand Krishna's mysteries, such as which form he manifests or in whom he manifests. His elder brother Vishwarup used to come and study Bhagavad Gita with me. This child, Vishwambar, was most enchantingly attractive. He used to come to my house to call his brother. On seeing the beauty of this child, my heart was captivated. I blessed him with the words, "May you attain devotional service to the Lord." He is from an aristocratic family, for he is the son of Nilambar Chakravarti's daughter. He is most erudite and possesses all good qualities. So it is befitting that he has devotion to Krishna. I have become very pleased on hearing this news. All of you kindly bless him, saying, "May it be so. May the mercy of Krishna be manifest to all, and may the entire world become intoxicated by the name of Krishna." If all this is true, then everyone will come to the house of this Brahmana. Advaita Acharya roared loudly in ecstasy, and all the Vaishnavas chanted in jubilation. As they chanted the names of Hari, Lord Krishna manifested there in the form of kirtan. Someone said, "When Nimai Pandit becomes a devotee, then we will have tumultuous kirtans." All the devotees then offered their obeisances to Advaita Acharya and left, chanting the names of Hari. The Lord spoke with great respect to everyone he met. When the Lord went in the morning to take bath in the Ganges, he met many Vaishnavas on the way. As soon as the Lord saw Srivas Pandit and other devotees, he offered them obeisances, and the devotees blessed the Lord out of love. "May you obtain devotion at the feet of Krishna. Chant and hear the names of Krishna. My dear, if you worship Krishna, everything will be successful. And if you do not worship Krishna, then your beauty and education are useless. Krishna is the Father of the universe, and Krishna is the life and soul of everyone. Therefore, my dear, worship the lotus feet of Krishna with determination." The Lord was greatly pleased with their benedictions, so he cast his merciful glance on them. "All your blessings are certainly fruitful. Why would you give any other lesser benedictions? You alone are capable of awarding devotional service to Krishna, for by serving his servants, Krishna bestows his mercy." Long purport. you always teach me my duties to Lord Vishnu. This proves that I must have previously performed pious activities. Again, like a 8-page purport. I can have devotion to Krishna only by serving you. Saying this, the Lord caught hold of their feet. He collected kusha grass and clay from the Ganges for someone, and sometimes he carried a basket of flowers home for someone. Although all the Vaishnavas fervently requested him to refrain from such activities, saying, "What are you doing?" Vishwambar continued to serve them. In this way, Lord Vishwambar daily acted as a servant of his own servants. What service is there that the Lord will not do for his devotees? The Lord gives up his own position for the sake of his servants. All the scriptures declare, Sakala Suhrit Krishna. Krishna is the friend of all. Therefore, no one is hated or neglected by Krishna. Yet, Krishna gives up this quality for the sake of his devotee. The annihilation of Duryodhana's family is proof of this. It is the nature of the devotees to serve Lord Krishna, and whatever Krishna does is for the sake of his devotees. The devotees who are absorbed in devotional mellows can sell Krishna. The evidence of this is Satyabhama in Dwarka. Let's see what it says. An explanation of the second line of this verse is found in Harivangsha, Vishnu Parva, chapter 76. Quote, therefore, after Satyabhama Devi, who is desirous of Krishna, placed a garland on Krishna's neck and tied him to a parijata tree. After taking Krishna's permission, she then sold him to Narada. That's all it says. That's all it says. Which means that Vrindavan Das had knowledge of Harivangsha, along with whatever else he had knowledge of. That same Lord is Gaura Sundara Vishwambar, who is residing in Navadvip in a covered form. No one could recognize their own Lord, even those for whom the Lord appeared. That anyone who desires to worship Krishna worship his dear, auspicious devotees. Lord Gaurachandra taught everyone to serve the Vaishnavas by his personal example. He did not feel shy as he carried their flower baskets and clothes. The Vaishnavas, however, respectfully caught hold of his hands in order to dissuade him. Seeing Vishwambar's humility, all the devotees continually offered him their heartfelt blessings. Worship Krishna, remember Krishna, and hear the names of Krishna. Let Krishna be the life and wealth of everyone. Please chant the name of Krishna and become his servant. May Krishna manifest within your heart. May nothing other than Krishna appear in your heart. Let all of our miseries be dispelled by you. May those fallen persons who ridicule the performance of Kirtan drown in the transcendental mellows of Krishna consciousness. As you conquered the entire world with your mastery of the scriptures, you should destroy the atheists by worshiping Krishna. By your mercy, may we all become overwhelmed with this bliss while dancing and chanting the names of Krishna. In this way, the devotees placed their hands on the Lord and blessed him while submitting their sorrows. In this Navadvip, my dear, all the teachers are dumb in glorifying devotion to Krishna. My dear, all the great sannyasis, ascetics, and learned scholars that reside in Navadvip never explain the purport of the scriptures. is to glorify Krishna. Rather, they constantly engage in blasphemy. All the sinful listeners are captivated by their words, and therefore they consider us no better than straw. Therefore, dear Vishwambar, intense sorrow is constantly burning our bodies, for we never hear the propagation of the chanting of Krishna's names. Now, Krishna has exhibited his pleasure with everyone, so he has admitted you on this path. We are confident that all the atheists will be vanquished by you. Therefore, live forever and chant the holy names of Krishna. Reveal the qualities of Krishna to everyone. The Lord accepted the devotee's blessings on his head, for by the devotee's blessings, one obtains devotion to Krishna. On hearing about the devotee's distress, Lord Vishwambar desired to quickly manifest himself. The Lord said, "You are all affectionate devotees of Krishna, so whatever you say will undoubtedly happen. My life is glorious because of your words. Even the personification of death cannot transgress your words." Okay. Why should you bother about these insignificant, sinful atheists? Just happily chant the holy names of Krishna. The Lord cannot tolerate the suffering of his devotees. Lord Krishna always incarnates for the sake of his devotees. Now I can understand that you will cause Krishna to make his appearance and fill the entire Navadvip with the happiness of Vaikuntha. By the mercy of you all, the entire world will be delivered. For you will induce Krishna to incarnate. All of you, please consider me your servant, and give me the benediction that you will never leave me. Vishwambar took the dust from the feet of all the devotees, and they all abundantly blessed him. Thereafter, all the devotees took bath in the Ganges and then returned home. The Lord also returned to his home, smiling. On hearing the distress of his devotees, the Lord's anger towards the atheists increased greatly. He roared loudly, saying, "I will kill them all!" He repeatedly exclaimed, "I am he! I am he!" Sometimes he laughed. Sometimes he cried. Sometimes he fell unconscious to the ground. And sometimes, when he saw Vishnupriya, he rushed forward to beat her. In this way, the Lord was fully absorbed in the mood of Vishnu. Yet Mother Sachi could not understand whether or not he was diseased. Sachi did not know anything other than affection for her son. She told everyone about his behavior. Quote, "Providence has taken away my husband and sons. Only this one remains, and I cannot understand the state of his mind. Sometimes he laughs, sometimes he cries, and sometimes he falls unconscious. He talks often to himself. Sometimes he says, 'I will tear off the heads of the atheists.' Sometimes he climbs a tree and sits on a branch, keeping his eyes shut. He then sometimes falls to the ground. He gnashes his teeth, tucks up his loincloth like a wrestler, and falls to the ground, unable to utter a word." People have never seen or heard such transformations of ecstatic love for Krishna. Thinking that it was madness, they said he should be bound. Those who came to see the Lord after hearing from Mother Sachi simply laughed and rushed away, thinking he was suffering from insanity. They quickly took Mother Sachi to the side and tried to pacify her, saying, "It is some previous derangement that has reappeared." Someone said, "Oh, Thakurani, you are so ignorant. Why do you want to ask further about his condition?" Some previous madness has again appeared in his body. Tie his 2 legs and keep him inside the house. Give him green coconut water to drink until his madness is cured. Someone else said, what can a little medicine do? His disease will be cured only if you smear some medicated ghee on him. Apply medicated oil on his head and then bathe him. Continue in this way until the disease subsides. The most magnanimous Sachi is the mother of the universe. She would carefully follow everyone's advice. Mother Sachi was overwhelmed with anxiety and didn't know what to do. So she took shelter of Govinda with her body, speech, and mind. She then sent a messenger to the houses of all the Vaishnavas headed by Srivas in order to inform them of the situation. One day Srivas went there, and the Lord immediately got up and offered him obeisances. On seeing a devotee, the Lord's devotional sentiments increased. His hair stood on end, he shed tears, he shivered, and his attachment for the Lord was enhanced. At that time, the Lord was circumambulating Tulsi, but on seeing a devotee, he immediately fell unconscious. After a while, the Lord regained external consciousness and began to cry. He shivered so intensely that he was unable to remain still. When Srivas Pandit saw this wonderful sight, he contemplated, who calls this madness? This is the highest state of devotion. On regaining his external consciousness, the Lord asked Srivas Pandit, what do you think of my behavior? Someone suggested that I should be bound up because of my insanity. Oh, Pandit, what do you feel about me? Srivas Pandit smiled and said, your madness is good. I want the same kind of madness that you have. I find the highest devotional symptoms in your body. Lord Krishna has bestowed his mercy on you. When the Lord heard this from Srivas, he embraced him in great happiness. Everyone concluded that I was afflicted with madness, but you alone have concluded otherwise. Therefore, today, I'm greatly obliged to you. Or another translation is, you have consoled me. If you had also concluded that I was insane, that I would have drowned myself in the Ganges today. Srivas Pandit said, the symptoms of devotional service that you display are desired by personalities such as Brahma, Shiva, and Shankara. We will gather together and chant the names of Krishna. Let sinful atheists say whatever they want. Srivas then said to Sachi, give up your anxieties. I tell you, this is not insanity. It is devotion to Krishna. No one can understand this fact. If you wish to see many more of Krishna's mysteries, then do not tell ordinary people about this. After speaking in this way, Srivas returned home, and Sachi was relieved of thoughts that her son was affected by madness. Mother Sachi, however, continued to feel anxiety out of fear that her son would leave home. In this way, Lord Vishwambhara resided in Navadvip. Who can know him unless he reveals himself? One day, the Lord happily went with Gadadhar to see Advaita. When they arrived, the two Prabhus saw Advaita Acharya sitting and worshipping the Lord with Ganges water and tulsi leaves. He raised his 2 arms and loudly chanted, Hari Hari! He completely forgot himself as he laughed one moment and cried in the next. He roared like an intoxicated lion. His wrath was so intense, it appeared that the great Rudra had invented. As soon as Lord Vishwambhara saw Advaita, he fell unconscious to the ground. By dint of his devotion, the mighty Advaita could recognize, here is the Lord of my life. he thought, "Oh, my thief, where will you go today? You have been wandering all about these days, hiding just like a thief. Your thievery will not work with Advaita. Rather, I will steal from the thief right now." Understanding that it was the proper opportunity for stealing, Advaita came down from his seat with articles for worship. Thereafter, Advaitacharya began to worship the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya by offering Padya, Argya, Achmaniya, sandalwood paste, flowers, incense, lamp. He then offered his obeisances while reciting the following verse from Vishnu Purana. From Vishnu Purana, spoken by Prahlad. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahman Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So now we know where that verse comes from. I didn't know before. Vishnu Purana, Prahlad Maharaj. Brahmanya Devaya means he who is worshipped by learned brahmanas. If one wants to know the elaborate meaning of Go, Krishna, and Govinda, he should discuss Sri Jiva Goswami's commentary on the first verse of Brahma Samhita. Very nice. It's a really long purport, the first verse in Jiva Goswami's commentary. Really long. As he repeatedly recited this verse, Advaita fell at the Lord's feet. Recognizing his Lord, he cried profusely. He washed the Lord's two lotus feet with his tears and stood by the Lord's feet with folded hands. Gadadhar smiled, bit his tongue in surprise, and said, "Oh, Gosai, it is not proper to behave like this towards a boy." On hearing Gadadhar's words, Advaita smiled and said, "Gadadhar, you will soon know who this boy is." Gadadhar was struck with wonder and thought, perhaps the Supreme Lord has appeared. After a while, Vishvambhara regained his external consciousness and saw that Advaitacharya was absorbed in ecstasy. Lord Vishvambhara then tried to hide himself by offering prayers to Advaita with folded hands. The Lord offered his obeisances to Advaita and took the dust from his lotus feet. Thus he surrendered his body to Advaita. "Oh, Mahasai, please be merciful to me. Know for certain that I belong to you. My life has become successful by seeing you. Only by your mercy will I be able to chant the names of Krishna." You alone are capable of destroying my material bondage, for Krishna is always manifest in your heart. The Lord knows well how to increase the glories of his devotees. He treats his devotees as they treat him. Advaita thought, you think you are very clever, but I have stolen from the thief. Thereafter, Advaita smiled and said, "Oh, Vishvambhara, to me, you are greater than all. I wish to live here and discuss topics of Krishna with you so that I can constantly see you. It is the desire of all Vaishnavas to see you and chant the holy names of Krishna with you." The Lord happily accepted Advaita's words and then returned to his home. Advaita understood that the Lord has revealed himself, yet in order to test him, he went to Shantipur. Quote, "If he is actually the Lord, and I am actually his servant, then he will bind me and bring me to his side." Who has the ability to understand the heart of Advaita, by whose influence Lord Chaitanya incarnated? Know for certain that one who does not have faith in these topics will soon fall down. In this way, Mahaprabhu Vishwambar engaged daily in congregational chanting of the holy names in the company of the Vaishnavas. Everyone was greatly pleased to see Vishwambar, but they could not recognize him as their worshipable Lord. His state of supreme spiritual absorption distinguished him from others, and on seeing this, everyone became suspicious. Who can describe the Lord's blissful absorption other than Lord Shesha? When his body began to shiver, even 100 people were unable to hold him steady. And when tears flowed from his eyes, it appeared as if hundreds of rivers were flowing. When the hairs of his body stood on end, his body looked like a golden jackfruit. Jackfruit have thorns? Yes? Okay. Many, huh? Short. Small. But, okay. Again and again he would laugh loudly with great jubilation. Sometimes in ecstasy he lost consciousness for 3 hours. And on regaining consciousness he would not speak about anything other than Krishna. The ears of people were pierced by his loud roar, but by his grace the devotees were delivered. Sometimes his entire body assumed the stationary form of a pillar, and sometimes the same body became as soft as butter. When the devotees saw these wonderful sights, they no longer considered him an ordinary human being. Someone said, "This person is a partial incarnation of the Supreme Lord." Someone else said, "Lord Krishna sports in his body." Someone said, "He may be Shukadev Goswami, or Prahlad, or Narada." Another said, "It appears that all our troubles will be vanquished." All the wives of the devotees said, "It appears that Krishna has personally appeared." Someone said, "Perhaps he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord." They're all speculators. What do they know? In this way, they all considered the Lord in their own way. I'm unable to describe how the Lord held the devotees by the neck and began to cry when he regained external consciousness. "Oh, my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O friend of the helpless, you are the only ocean of mercy. Because I have not met you, my inauspicious days and nights have become unbearable. I do not know how I shall pass the time. Where will I find Krishna, who plays on his flute?" Speaking in this way, he sighed deeply and wept. When he became calm, the Lord said to his intimate devotees, "Now I will relate topics of my distress to you." The Lord said, "There is no end to my distress, because after achieving Kanai, the Lord of my life, I then lost him." Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta writes, the phrase Jivana Kanai refers to Kanu or Nandanandana, who is one's very life. I always wondered, one of Varsana Swami's disciples he named Kanu. I never asked him what's the meaning. I kind of got a sense, but specifically Nandanandana, who is one's very life. Okay. Everyone was satisfied to hear the Lord's confidential topics, so they all respectfully sat around him. While returning from Gaya, I came to the village named Kanai Natashala. Nice story. I saw a beautiful boy, blackish like a tamal tree. His enchanting curling hair was decorated with fresh gunja. His head was decorated with a colorful peacock feather, and the jewels on his body were so bright that I could not see him properly. He held an enchanting flute in his hand, and his lotus feet were adorned with attractive ankle bells. His arms were decorated with jeweled ornaments and defeated the beauty of blue columns. His chest was adorned with the mark of Srivats and Kaustuba gem and jeweled necklaces. How can I describe the manner in which he wore his yellow garments? His shark-shaped earrings increased the beauty of his lotus eyes. He smiled as he approached me, and after embracing me, he ran away. Who can understand the mood in which Gaurasundar speaks, except one who is favored by him? While speaking in this way, Vishwambar lost consciousness and fell to the ground, exclaiming, "Oh, Krishna!" The devotees quickly picked him up as they all chanted, "Krishna, Krishna!" They pacified him and brushed the dust from his body. Although the Lord was pacified, he could not remain calm. He continuously cried, saying, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" After a while, Sri Gaurasundar became calm and exhibited extreme natural humility. Everyone present became greatly satisfied in hearing the Lord's explanation of his devotional sentiments. They said, "We are indeed blessed because you have made us most fortunate with your company. For one who associates with you, what is the value of Vaikuntha? A single moment with you yields the fruit of devotion. We are all dependent on you. May you lead us in kirtan. Our bodies are burning from the fiery words of atheists. Please relieve us with the cool waters of your love." Thereafter, the Lord happily solaced everyone and returned to his house like a maddened lion. Although he returned home, he did not enjoy household pleasures. Rather, he constantly enjoyed transcendental bliss. The tears of love that flowed from his eyes were such that it appeared that the Ganges, which flows from his feet, was now flowing from his eyes. The only words the Lord spoke were, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" Even on inquiry, there was no other reply. When the Lord saw another devotee, he asked, "Where is Krishna?" After speaking in this way, the Lord would cry profusely, and the devotees would solace him according to their ability. One day, happily, Gadadhar came before the Lord with some betel nuts in his hand. On seeing Gadadhar, the Lord asked, "Where is that blackish Krishna who is dressed in yellow cloth?" All the devotees there felt as if their hearts were pierced on seeing the Lord's intense longing. Everyone was perplexed about how to reply. Gadadhar anxiously replied, "Krishna always resides within your heart." As soon as the Lord heard those words, "Krishna is in your heart," he began to scratch at his chest with his fingernails. Gadadhar quickly caught the Lord's hands and pacified him with various words of solace. Gadadhar said, "Be patient. Krishna will come now." As Mother Sachi looked on, Mother Sachi became very pleased with Gadadhar and thought, "I haven't seen such an intelligent boy before. Out of fear, I cannot stand before him. Yet, how nicely he consoled him." Mother Sachi said, "My dear boy, always remain with us. Always remain with him. Do not leave him and go anywhere else." On seeing the Lord's wonderful ecstatic love, Mother Sachi no longer considered him her son. In the commentary, short. In this case, Mother Sachi manifested Vatsalya rasa mixed with opulence, like Devaki. She thought, this personality is not an ordinary human being. Can tears like that flow from the eyes of an ordinary human being? I do not know what great personality has appeared in my family. Frightened in this way, Mother Sachi did not want to come before the Lord. In the evening, all the devotees gradually assembled at the Lord's house. Thereafter, Sri Mukunda began to recite various verses glorifying devotional service. The most fortunate Mukunda had such a divine voice that as soon as the crest jewel of Brahmanas heard him, he became absorbed in trance. The Lord began to loudly chant, Hari Bol, and then fell on the ground in the various directions, and no one could hold him. All transformations of ecstatic love, like fear, laughter, shivering, perspiration, hair standing on end, thundering of voice, simultaneously manifested in his body. On seeing this unique manifestation, the devotees sang in great joy. The loving entities of the Lord could not be checked. What is that? The loving sentiments of the Lord could not be checked. There we go. The entire night passed like a moment. In the morning, the Lord seemed to regain some external consciousness. In this way, the son of Sachi regularly performed Sankirtan in his house throughout the day and night. Thus, the Supreme Lord inaugurated the performance of Sankirtan. As a result, all the devotees' distress was mitigated, as Sri Sachinandana loudly chanted, Hari Bol. The sleep of the atheist was repeatedly broken. When the happiness of their sleep was broken, the atheists became angry and blasphemed as they pleased for their own ruination. Someone said, what madness has come upon them? Someone else said, we are unable to sleep at night. Someone said, the Lord will become angry because of this loud noise, and that will result in their destruction. And others said, rather than cultivating knowledge, they're acting most arrogantly. Someone said, who knows what kind of kirtan they are doing? That foolish Brahmana Srivas is behind all this. In order to fill their bellies by begging, these four brothers call out loudly the name of Krishna as if they were inflicted by insanity. Can they not achieve piety by chanting in their minds? Does chanting loudly bestow greater piety? Someone else said, oh, brother, there's quotes from Adikanda that answers those questions. 3 quotes, chapter 16. Someone else said, oh, brothers, we are doomed because of Srivas. The entire country will be ruined. I've heard this morning that on the king's order, 2 boats are on their way here. The king has heard about the loud kirtan at Nadia. Therefore, he has ordered that they be arrested and brought before him. Now, Srivas Pandit will slip off in some direction or other, leaving us to face certain ruin. I bluntly told you before that we should throw Srivas's house into the Ganges. You thought it was a joke and did not pay any attention, but now see how we will be destroyed, someone else said. What does this have to do with us? We will bind Srivas and turn him over to whoever he demands. From town to town the news was spread. The king's men are coming to arrest the Vaishnavas. When the Vaishnavas heard this news, they all subdued their fears by remembering Govinda. I mean, in the past 3 days, I've gotten 5 letters where devotees are writing, how do I overcome fear? Well, we got this and that and the other thing. One just came from China. Somebody, her husband has something, and he's in a coma, and he's in a lot of pain. How does she know if he has a lot of pain? He's in a coma. He's in a lot of pain, very dangerous condition. I'm very fearful. What do I do? The Vaishnavas subdued all their fears by remembering Govinda. Whatever Krishna Chandra ordains must take place. Why should one fear wicked persons when the Lord is there? Srivas Pandit was most open-minded. He had firm faith in whatever he heard. Considering that the Yavanas were ruling the kingdom, he became fearful. And Gaurachandra knew the heart of his devotee. The devotees did not know that the Lord had personally appeared. Therefore, the son of Shachi began to reveal himself. There's like an unfolding of pastimes. First he was what he was, then saying, oh, if he can only become a devotee. Then he becomes a devotee. And then the envious people are, threatening, and they become fearful in another way. So Lord Chaitanya wants to protect his devotees. Mahaprabhu Vishwambar, who was incomparable throughout the 3 worlds and more attractive than Cupid, fearlessly wandered about Navadvip. Fragrant sandalwood pulp was smeared all over his body. His lotus eyes and crimson lips were enchanting. His curling hair adorned his face, which resembled the full moon. A Brahmana thread enhanced the beauty of his shoulders and his exquisite form. He was dressed in fine cloth, and his lips were tinged with the color of betel. He happily proceeded towards the bank of the Ganges. This is really nice pastime. On seeing him, all the pious persons became happy, and all the atheists became morose. In spite of hearing the rumors, he is not at all frightened. He wanders about town like a prince. Someone else said, "Oh, brother, I have understood. Wait a while, and you will see. This is all a cover-up for his escape." Lord Vishwambar fearlessly looked around and saw before him the beautiful flowing Ganges and its charming banks. He saw nearby a herd of grazing cows who were lowing, that means mooing, I guess, as they came to the river bank for drinking water. Some of the cows raised their tails and ran about. Some of them fought with each other. Some laid down, and some drank water. On seeing this, the Lord repeatedly thundered, "I am he! I am he!" In that mood, the Lord rushed to Srivas's house, where he was loudly exclaiming, "Oh, Srivas, what are you doing?" The Lord repeatedly kicked on the door of the room in which Srivas was worshipping Nrsingadev. "Who are you worshipping? Who are you meditating on? Look, he whom you are worshipping is standing before you." Srivas Pandit saw blazing fire, and his meditation was broken. He opened his eyes and looked around him. He saw Vishwambar sitting like a hero and holding a conch disc club and lotus in his 4 hands. The Lord continually roared like an intoxicated lion as he slapped the left side of his stomach on seeing him, Srivas Pandit began to tremble and became completely speechless. The Lord said, "Oh, Srivas, all these days you did not know about my appearance? By your loud chanting and nadas, that's Advaita Acharyas, roaring, I left Vaikuntha and came here with my associates. You are living unconcerned without recognizing me, and Nada has avoided me by going to Shantipur. I will deliver the saintly persons and destroy the miscreants. Do not worry. Offer prayers to me." On seeing the Lord, Srivas cried out of love. He became fearless and receiving the Lord's assurance. Srivas's entire body was filled with ecstasy as he stood up with folded hands and began offering prayers. Srivas Pandit was a natural scholar and a Mahabhagavata. Having been ordered by the Lord, he offered heartfelt prayers. He spoke first a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that was spoken by Lord Brahma after his bewilderment. Quote, this is 10:14. It doesn't give the verse number. My Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you, O Son of the King of the cowherds. Your transcendental body is dark blue like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning, and the beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head. Wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. This is the first verse. Yeah, that's the first verse, 10:14:1. I offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of Vishvambar, whose bodily complexion is the color of a newly formed cloud, and who is dressed in yellow garments. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sachi's son, whose head is decorated with fresh gunja and a peacock feather. I offer my respectful obeisances at the feet of Gangadas, Pandit's student, who wears a forest flower garland and holds yogurt rice in his hand. I offer my respectful obeisances at the feet of Jagannath Mishra's son, whose attractive form defeats the beauty of millions of moons. You are he who is adorned with horn, stick, and flute. I offer my obeisances unto you. You are that person who is addressed by the four Vedas as the son of Maharaj Nanda. I offer my obeisances unto you. Srivas Pandit offered the Lord prayers similar to those offered by Brahma. Whatever he spoke came to his lips spontaneously. Another verses, and there's a series of verses from Adikanda, chapter 2. You are Vishnu, you are Krishna, you are the Lord of sacrifice. The holy waters of the Ganges emanate from your lotus feet. You are the air, the life and soul of Janaki, You are the life and soul of Janaki, and you are Nrsingadev. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and others are all servants of your lotus feet. You are the knower of Vedanta, you are Narayana. It was you who deceived Bali as Vamana. You are Hayagriva, and you are the life and soul of the entire universe. You are the moon-like Lord of Nilachala, and the cause of all causes. He's going on with prayers. I'm going to skip a little bit. The most fortunate Srivas rolled on the ground after seeing that most wonderful manifestation of Sri Gaurachandra. What wonderful happiness was felt in the body of Srivas. That best of the Brahmanas merged in the ocean of bliss. The Lord smiled after hearing the prayers of Srivas. Being compassionate to Srivas, the Lord spoke to him, "Bring your wife, children, and others of your house and let them see my form. In the company of your wife, worship my lotus feet and ask for any benediction you desire. Being ordered by the Lord, Srivas Pandit immediately brought all his family members. He offered to the feet of the Lord whatever flowers were there for the worship of Vishnu. In the company of his wife, the Brahmana cried as he worshipped the lotus feet of the Lord with sandalwood paste, flowers, incense, and lamps. Srivas Pandit led his brothers, wife, servants, and maidservants in humbly falling at the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Vishwambar is the well-wisher of Srinivas. So he placed his lotus feet on the heads of everyone there. Unseen by all, the Lord touched everyone's heads with his lotus feet. He smiled and said, "May your minds be fixed on me." Lord Vishwambar roared loudly and spoke to Srivas as follows. Now it goes back and forth between Srivas and Srinivas. "Oh, Srinivas, are you afraid of something? I've heard that the king's boat has arrived for your arrest. By my supreme will, I am the director of all living entities of the innumerable universes. If I have the king make an order to arrest you, then only will he do so. If this were not the case, if he independently ordered your arrest, this is what I will do. I will first board the boat and present myself before the king. Will the king remain sitting on his throne after seeing me? I will bewilder him and drag him down. If this does not happen, and he holds me for questioning, then this is what I will tell him. Listen, O king. Bring all your mullahs and qazis to ascertain the truth, O king. Bring all the elephants, horses, animals, and birds that you have. Instruct your qazi to recite your scriptures and make these creatures cry. If they are unable to do this, then I will manifest myself to the king. You dared to stop Sankirtana on the advice of these fellows. Everyone has now seen what power they actually have. Now behold my power with your own eyes. After saying this, I will bring an intoxicated elephant before him. I will gather the elephants, horses, deer, birds, and induce them to chant the name of Krishna and cry. I will induce everyone to chant the name of Krishna and cry, including the king and his subjects. Do not maintain the slightest doubt. I will show you now before your eyes. The Lord saw one small girl named Narayani, the niece of Srivas, standing before him. Even today, Narayani is known amongst the Vaishnavas as the recipient of Lord Chaitanya's remnants. Sri Gauranga, the super soul of all living entities, ordered her, Narayani, chant the name of Krishna and cry. That 4-year-old girl immediately acted like she was mad. She cried, chanted, "Oh, Krishna," and forgot herself. Tears flowed from her eyes to the ground, making the surrounding area wet. Lord Vishwambar smiled and said, "Now have your fears been dispelled?" The expert speaker Srivas knows all truths. He raised his arms and spoke to the Lord. "O Lord, when in the form of time you annihilate the entire creation, I am not afraid due to the power of your holy names. So what is there to fear now that you are personally present in my house?" After speaking in this way, Srivas became overwhelmed as he and his associates saw the Lord's opulences. He, whom the 4 Vedas desire to see, was seen by Srivas's servants and maidservants. What then can be said about the magnanimous characteristics of Srivas? The dust of his lotus feet purifies the entire world. Krishna appeared in the house of Vasudeva, yet he enjoyed various pastimes in the house of Nanda Maharaj. In the same way, the Lord appeared in the house of Jagannath and enjoyed various pastimes at the house of Srivas Pandit. Srivas Pandit was most dear to the Vaishnavas. They all became filled with joy on entering his house. He, who was offered heartfelt prayers by the Vedas, was easily seen by the servants and maidservants of Srivas. That is why service to the Vaishnavas is the topmost process, for by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, one certainly attains Krishna. Lord Vishwambar instructed Srivas. We have one more page. We're done. Do not disclose these topics to anyone. On regaining external consciousness, Vishwambar felt somewhat ashamed. After solacing Srivas, he returned home. Then, Srivas Pandit, along with his wife, his brothers' wives, his brothers, his servants, and his maidservants became filled with happiness. Anyone who hears the prayers that Srivas offered when he saw the Lord's manifestation will certainly become a servant of Krishna. Lord Balaram, in the form of the Supersoul, ordered me to glorify the topics of Sri Chaitanya. I offer my respectful obeisances at the feet of all the Vaishnavas, so that by their mercy Haladar may be my Lord birth after birth. Just as Narasingha and Yadhu Singha are different names for the same person, I know that Nityananda and Baladev are different only in name. Baladev is the dearest personality to Chaitanya Chandra. He is known now as Avaduta Chandra. Oh, brothers, please hear attentively the topics of Madhyakanda, which describe the Lord's kirtan pastimes over the course of 1 year. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So that ends the chapter, the Lord's manifestation at the house of Srivas and the inauguration of Sankirtan. And the next chapter is pretty nice too. Lord Chaitanya manifests his form of Lord Varaha at the house of Murari. He was holding back, and now he's not holding back. Repeatedly, Prabhupada would speak about the challenge that would come for one who becomes a Vaishnava in this world, and refer to so many Haridas Thakur and Prahlad Maharaj and this one, that one. Here again, Srivas, and the people that were creating the rumor were Brahmanas and envious personalities, wanting to protect his devotees. This is how he did it. And he protected them by removing their fear. I will protect you. Mahasuchaha. The teaching of Bhagavad Gita is being fulfilled by Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Aham tvam sarva papibhyo moksha yashami Mahasuchaha. There was a period of time when devotees were being arrested for street Sankirtan. A celebrated set of events in Melbourne. Devotees were put in jail, and they sent a message to Prabhupada, we were put in jail should we hire a lawyer? Or our men were put in jail. I said, no, don't hire a lawyer. Just tell them to chant Hare Krishna and be happy in jail. And the result of it was a huge backlash upon the people that put them in jail. They didn't have to have a big, expensive court fight. It just, someone in a high place from a Christian organization said, these are good people, let them go. And whatever were the combination of factors, of course, that's one part of the world and maybe different in another part of the world and different in another part of the world. But that's what happened during that time. And Prabhupada spoke about it often. And in other places. I was in jail once in Chicago. Never any other time. We were in a traveling Sankirtan van, and we're visiting colleges, and for some reason, I don't know why, we thought, hey, downtown Chicago, let's go. So we went downtown Chicago, and it didn't take 10 minutes. A paddy wagon came along, stuffed us in the back of the paddy wagon, and took us off to jail. I mean, I don't think we were put in a jail cell. We were taken at least to police custody. And it was an intimidation move. Stop this, don't come back again. And then they did take court action. Not just for that. I mean, I don't even know if the Chicago Temple knew we were passing through on our way, traveling Sankirtan. So, in establishing the legitimate, Prabhupada also spoke in Japan. The government was saying you have to become a recognized organization before you can continue your activities in the public streets of Japan or Tokyo. So they did, and they carried on. How many here have read Giriraj Maharaj's book, I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story? Okay. I had a conversation today with Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. He said, send him a mailing address and he'll send copies wherever I ask, because he bought some extra copies. So I didn't give him an address yet. Whose address should I give? Okay, you have to send me your home address. And he said he'll send a few copies. That there's a reference there about this, harassment thing. Yeah, and there's Prabhupada making reference to other places. When he was in Bombay, he would make reference to other places. Of course, they were certainly more than harassed in Bombay. More than harassed. It was dangerous. But the devotees were fearless. Devotees were fearless. And Mr. Seti, with his rifle and pistol, chased away the Gundas. He's really a Kshatriya fellow. Told the story of Prabhupada of how he did some other stuff. Hit somebody in the rear end with this gun. For what? Because they had abandoned their culture. So what to speak of the further away people that have no culture? But I don't know if any of you have been asked. I've been asked a few times because of all the turmoil. Without going into the topic, I don't want to have discussion about the war and that topic, politics, what to do. It happened, one question came even during this visit. What should we do? It's the cure for this age, the change of consciousness. Prabhupada would argue it's just, making adjustments doesn't resolve the problem. Change of consciousness resolves the problem, and without change of consciousness, nothing is going to change. It's Kali Yuga of another form, of another manner, without going into the whole thing. It's meant for this age to uplift society in general, and to bring that opportunity to others is the best medicine, the best antidote, the best thing we can do. One of my godbrothers forwarded to me something I didn't even know was going on. In some part of Australia, forget the city, nice name for the city, there's been some protest going on. There was like a TV interviewer interviewing a Hare Krishna devotee in someplace or other, Australia. And for 19 days, the people have been protesting something with the government. And there was like thousands of people in a square, and the devotees were there with their prasadam distribution and with their kirtan. And when this person who was being interviewed was speaking, he said, we went over there, yeah, the Hare Krishna guys, you come bring your chanting, because this is the only solution. The protesters saying that to them. Whenever you come, we feel more peaceful. The whole situation becomes peaceful. Bring your chanting over here. Now, that has its place in certain forums, and other forums, you go to a secluded place and chant. Naranjan Maharaj told me, I was asking Naranjan Maharaj for a picture of the Kiev temple for the court case that's shortly coming up in Long Island, where there's ISKCON is all over the world, and it's a 7-story building that they built by hand. And the story of how they built that temple is really wonderful. They didn't have money. They just were going here and there asking for bricks and cement and whatever materials they can get from. Naranjan Maharaj tells this nice story. One lady was going out and where there's trucks passing by, and she flagged them down and gave them prasadam and said, "Can you bring the crane over here?" And so he spent the whole day lifting up cement things, or whatever you call those things, putting them in place, and just did it because of the kindness of his heart. And that's how they built the 7-story building. It's really beautiful. Artistic, beautiful. So he didn't have a picture, and he said, Achyuta Priya very reluctantly has gathered up whatever essential documents for the temple, plus his aging parents in their 70s, and his mother-in-law in their 80s, and they'd gone off to a farm. Just like he had to plead with them, don't stay, because it's risky. But how to change the degradation? The degradation is the Kali Yuga degradation, and here is Lord Chaitanya's cure. Some people try to escape. But that's the cure, the medicine. Okay, other than the world current affairs, anyone want to discuss some topic? Yes.
Is it the right understanding that Lord Chaitanya did not reveal himself because you mentioned that, for the fear of the devotees, to remove the fear as well as do the pastimes. Is there any other reason why he did not reveal it earlier himself?
Yeah. He was in the mood of a devotee of the Lord, not the Lord.
Yeah.
No, with certain devotees, he made some revelations and then said, don't disclose this to anyone. My understanding of how that was breached was towards the end of his pastimes or after, then people spoke. But during his pastimes, he's not the Lord. It's not veneration. He's a devotee. And he wanted that. And that's why he made the request, and that's why he only disclosed himself to certain people. When he saw there was suited, they were eligible, they had the qualification to experience what he revealed to them. Ramananda Roy and etc. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. We're going to hear, before I go, the six-armed form that he showed to Advaita Acharya. It's in this volume. We hear about the six-armed form in front of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but it's in Chaitanya Bhagavad, it's another time. So that's an explanation.
Thank you.
To externally maintain the mood of a devotee and have others perceive him in that way. Yeah. Something else?
Maharaj, I have a quick question here.
Okay.
So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transformations were significant. They were definitely extraordinary, right? When he went from one stage to another.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's mind-boggling that having lived in India, having brought up in India, we've folks in other parts outside of West Bengal and other areas, we heard so little of, or nothing practically. Whereas we've heard of other personalities and other saintly people, but how come Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Lord himself? How do we rationalize?
Well,
something like that?
a simple-minded person like me says the propagation wasn't sufficient. Now it's going on, and so now people are coming to know. So turn it the other way around. How is it that people are coming to know? Because the propagation is going on. So why wasn't it happening before? There wasn't propagation before. And there may be some reason, like when Prabhupada tried to establish in India, there was no traction. The Lord had another purpose for him. When that purpose was fulfilled, then the traction came. And during Bhaktisiddhanta's time, it's one acharya, and the followers didn't follow through the way that he wanted them to follow through, for different reasons. So the propagation factor. And one might say, time wasn't right, and now the time is right. Who knows about that one? And yeah. You have an answer to that question? You have a thoughtful answer to that thoughtful question? You don't have to say yes or no, but I mean, from your studies and your experience. Okay.
Maharaj, on this point that you're mentioning, how Lord Chaitanya frees his devotees from fear, and then you gave the wonderful example of Prabhupada and the lawsuit. If a person doesn't have the guidance of someone like Srila Prabhupada, should we do everything that a person should do, but change our consciousness and not be afraid, take shelter of the holy name, but externally do all the things we're supposed to do? and especially in terms of our own life, sometimes it's confusing because we think, well, how much should I defend myself, or how much should I make an effort to speak to a person and tell them, no, this is right or wrong, or and how much should I just depend on Krishna and not try to fix the situation myself.
Intelligence is required to make that judgment, and often we don't have too much, so we don't make good judgments. And intelligence follows principles, but it also has a lot to do with circumstances, the external and internal circumstances. I heard a nice discussion in relation to the hermeneutics teaching. I'm sure you're familiar with that hermeneutics teaching. And the session that Hari Parshad covered, where there's a verse in the Bhagavatam where there's some advice. Speak pleasingly, and if circumstance doesn't permit you to speak pleasingly, then it's sometimes advisable to say nothing. And there's something about it. Depends, again, it takes intelligence and one's own spiritual strength and capacity, etc. But sometimes pleasing speech is more disarming than confrontational. Sometimes confrontational certainly is required. You've crossed the line. Please desist. The intelligence from Supersoul is required to make those judgment calls. The first and foremost response is mode of service. The knee-jerk reaction when something comes that's looks harmful or harsh or something detrimental, mode of service, that the unfailing position is the mode of service, and feeling the Lord's protection because of that mode of service. And then one can make, to one's capacity of intelligence, judgments as to what's best to do. To say something, to say nothing, to leave the place, to challenge, or whatever it is. And sometimes it's not just something that's being said or done in connection with us, it's being said or done in connection with someone else. And you feel a calling to say something, do something. And again, it takes intelligence. I've shared this many times. I'll share it here again. Borijan has been a very instructive person in my life. And so one time in the VAHE, long story short, we were having lunch every day. Something came to my attention, I brought it to his attention. And then he shared one of the Borijan lessons, that there's some things that are just between an individual and Krishna. And don't play Krishna's role, allow Krishna to work with that person and their relationship with Krishna. And the service mood, that's the best application of your service mood. Allow Krishna to interact with the person in the way that Krishna wants to interact with that person and help them in a mode of service. And some people see that and they say, what's going on? being irresponsible or, something. You got to do something. You see something, do something. You see something, say something. You got to say something. You get kicked in the rear end. You got to go say something. And sometimes it is appropriate to get a little kick and to say something. And sometimes it's appropriate to allow Krishna to work things out in his way. But overall, whether it's, A to Z, it's the mood of service. To please Krishna, and by pleasing Krishna with your words and speech, and your words and actions. And then you make choices. If there's opportunity, you go and consult someone that's not, part of your autobiography and ask them what their thoughts are. A wise person. Or two or three. Anyone else? Yeah? We have something online after.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, from what we read, from what you read yesterday, it seemed to me that Ishwara Puri had a lot of awe and reverence for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So did he know that he was the Lord?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a verse where it specifically says, but intuitively, he's such an elevated Vaishnava, certainly he knew. But he knew.
Okay. Yeah, that was my
He addresses him that way. One of the verses we read. Online. Let's hear the online.
This question is from Chinmay Desai. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please be merciful to me by lending your ear to my concern. There has been a mention in Chaitanya Bhagavat about how, after noticing the sudden change of young Nimai after returning from the city of Gaya, the neighbors were concerned. One of the female neighbors told Mother Sachi that these are the symptoms of Mriga Vyadi, epilepsy. Mother Sachi discloses this to her son, who is able to pacify her somehow. I'm happy at least the people here did not consider any unscientific hypotheses like being possessed by some spirit.
No, they had that too. Go ahead.
But for a doctor like me, it has been perplexing for me for several years now, without any answer at sight, how ecstatic symptoms of Lord Chaitanya was seen rightly as the signs and epilepsy by many. Rightly as the signs by some and epilepsy as many. How seeking after Krishna's promise of awarding relief from
Avoiding which?
awarding relief from mental and physical agony would end up a person into an organic disorder of brain. Listening to Gaura Katha has not been as pleasurable to me since. I beg you, Maharaj, to help me get out of this.
Well, if you look at things through your medical doctor lens, you're going to see X. Medical doctor, symptoms means medical doctor conclusions. Symptoms and what's behind the symptoms. Now, how are you going to look at the same symptoms through the lens of Srinivas Pandit? You're not at the level of Srinivas Pandit for realization, but he immediately dismissed these other concerns, seeing the symptoms, same symptoms. He understood what the symptoms indicated. He wasn't a medical doctor, and you are. He was a spiritually elevated person, and you're not. Therefore, for you, how to have faith in that which is best understood through a spiritual lens and not mistakenly understood through the science lens. Putting aside this particular question, how many persons with a science background have heard Prabhupada's explanations saying they didn't go to the moon, and the different 16 different explanations of how they didn't go to the moon? So persons that have that scientific upbringing may just kind of like hit the pause button or feel uncomfortable or something like that. It's for your information. When the fifth canto Srimad Bhagavatam was printed and available for the devotees to read, some number of devotees left the Hare Krishna movement because they just couldn't handle it, meaning that they had bought into the paradigm of what modern science says, and when there's something that says different than what modern science says, so extremely different, they couldn't handle it. Now, they're not medical doctors like you, but they're persons that have grown up in the education system that values what you can see and measure with your senses or refined senses of, telescopes and magnifying systems and so forth and so on. When that book was published, I wasn't there, but Prabhupada was traveling through Canada. I was told by somebody who was there, I can't verify that he said this, but one of his intentions in the Bhaktivedanta purports for the fifth canto was to shake at the core the blind faith that people have in science, because he saw that as the greatest obstacle, as the impediment for people to take shelter of Krishna, because they have the blind faith in the temporary. So it doesn't mean that science is to be trashed any more than medical science is to be trashed. That's not the statement. But how to see things that are outside of the training that you as a medical practitioner have experienced, when symptoms X means disease such and such, symptom Y means disease something else. How to see things through the lens of Scripture. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu gives some of those symptoms, and when those symptoms were manifest, some people didn't see through the scriptural lens, they saw through a different lens. Now what about you? You're a medical practitioner with some understanding of Krishna Tattva, but not compelling enough that you can see through a spiritual lens. What to speak of realization on the spiritual platform. So I think you just have to be patient with yourself and leave it to the side until the purification and spiritual elevation both are at such a stage that you can see symptom X, and it, depending upon the whole picture, particularly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's not, it is what it is, it's not what it's not. Not he was exhibiting those symptoms to bewilder people to think that he was ill, mentally or otherwise. Just like we read on his way to Gaya, having a fever. He didn't have a fever. Didn't have a physical body. But it was a pastime. So he's performing pastimes, showing signs, but these symptoms are not any more than his fever. It's a transcendental exhibition to help those who are spiritually progressing understand how to see things and experience things through a spiritual lens. So be patient with yourself. There's some things that your training and education and your realizations don't match with what you're hearing. And there's going to be a lot of that in different departments besides the medical department. Be patient with yourself. Don't apply material yardsticks to something that's not material. Something else? That's it. We'll end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you to Maharaj for blessing us today with Katha. We were thinking we could have maybe just 15-20 minutes of Kirtan and then have Prasadam, if that sounds okay. Or we could even start, people can start and we can have some Kirtan. Mukunda Prabhu was here. I'm not sure where he's heading.
You're going to have Prasadam to go or Prasadam here?
We have Prasadam here.
Hey.
Yes.
I've got cookies here.
Oh,
or
yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
Much time. 10 minutes. 20 minutes, okay?